All right, friends, today we're going to talk about scrubbing data, right? And when I say scrubbing, I basically just mean cleaning it, because when we get it, it's good, but it's not in a workable form just yet, right? So what you're seeing on my screen here is what SPSS would look like when you download your data from SurveyMonkey, right? This is going to be quantitative data, so a slightly different process with qual, but this is what it's going to look like. And if you notice, it doesn't look like much of anything at the moment. If we just look through the first few variables, we've got collector number, respondent ID, collector ID, start date, end date, blah, 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 blah. Most of this is not going to be stuff that we care about in the least. It'll tell us how long it took the participant to complete the survey, start date and end date, right? IP address, kind of irrelevant because anyway, right? A lot of these are pieces of data that we don't need. So we start the scrubbing process by getting rid of anything that we don't need variable-wise, right? So what you can do is go down here to the variable view, flip it over, and so now we're looking at the actual variable view of the data, not the data view, right? And if we look at through these variables that we got here, we got the ones we talked about there: IP address, email address, first name, and last name. And if you think, oh, well, maybe that's useful because we need to know who participated. No, because this study was anonymous, we actually don't even have data for those three variables, right? So there's nothing even in those particular variables, as in custom data as well. Custom data doesn't have anything in it, right? So we don't need a lot of this. So we want to start the scrubbing process there. It may sound like unnecessary, but you might think, okay, well, if it doesn't have anything we need, we can just ignore it. Sure, of course you can do that. But what I find is when I'm doing my analysis, I want my data set to be as streamlined as possible. I don't want anything that can distract me or confuse me when I'm trying to run an analysis. Anything we don't need, out it goes. All right, so I'll start with that. I'm just going to select this variable. I'm going to select all the way down to custom data. And I'm just going to pitch all of these. Ta-ta, right? So all of those now are gone. If we go back to the data view, right, they're not there. As variables, they've been erased. So we don't need them. They're gone, okay? What I would suggest, and actually I suggest this only because I really am not going to yell into these videos, but if I was yelling right now, I would yell, save your data. And I would yell this repeatedly, because you should always save your data. It might help to remember, what does Jesus do? Jesus saves, right? As should you anytime you do anything to your data set, right? I deleted some variables, save. I just changed something slightly, save. You would be amazed at how inopportune times this program might just crash on you, and in which case you might have lost hours of work. So let's try and avoid that and save as often as we can. And I know it sounds like I'm being like really kind of anal about this, but trust me, it has happened to me. It's happened to everyone I know that's worked with SPSS. Don't let it happen to you, okay? So we've already scrubbed those variables off. There's gonna be other stuff we're gonna cut out of here too. So let's go back to the variable view and see if there's anything else we don't need. SPSS, or rather SurveyMonkey, likes to generate these like custom variables here too, page 1 through page 6. When we look at the data view, if we flip back over, there's not anything in those columns. There's not anything in that we need. So we can go ahead and jump in there, select these bad boys as well, and delete. Oops, not delete. In SPSS, you got to do clear variables. There we go. All right. Okay. Once again, I've made a slight change, so I would go up here and I would save it. I'm not going to because I've actually got a version of this data file that I've already saved with all the scrubbing done. So I'm not going to do it, but I want you to do it anytime you do this, right? I can't overemphasize enough. Once we've got that done, right? So now we've pretty much got all the variables out of there that we don't need. However, there is one more variable that I would recommend cutting. This last one. This last variable is the one where people put in their H number and their course number for getting extra credit for this survey. We don't want that in there when we do our analysis because A, it doesn't help our analysis, and B, this is supposed to be anonymous. Sorry, my cat started scratching the scratching post. It's supposed to be anonymous, so we don't want any identifier variables in there at all. So that can go, okay? I'll go ahead and cut that like so. Once again, going through the motions, but I would want you to do it, save, because you just did something else to the data set. Okay, now we don't have any variables we don't need, right? And we've gone from close to 50 variables overall to right over 30. And this is going to make your life easier. I promise it'll make your life easier. If we go back over this way, right, back to the data view, you might think, well, why is this incomplete? Why do 2 through 5, variables 2 through 5 have incomplete data? This is because there were 4 different conditions. So you'll notice as you look through this, there is a 1 only in one of the 4 columns for each participant, right? So these are the participants here on the left. These are the columns like this, right? So there's only going to be 1 per. So that's not a problem. We're not missing data because of these, right? Let's start with that. But you'll notice this first variable here has got either a 1 or 2 in it. That 1 or 2 is if they consent or do not consent. 1 for consent, 2 for do not consent. So what I want to do is cut out anybody that did not consent. And you might think, well, why are they in there if they didn't consent? This one, I'm going to go ahead and take the ownership for this. This one, unfortunately, when I designed it, wasn't designed to kick people out when they said they didn't consent. That's my fault. I made a mistake. But based on the IRB data, or based on the IRB requirements, I have to delete their data because they did not officially consent, so I'm not allowed to look through their data. So I have to take them out. Why you would click I do not consent and then do the whole survey is beyond me, but it's not my place to judge. Okay? So what I would suggest is I would come over here to this column here. This is the consent column. Right click on it. Actually, why is it not letting me do that? Hold on, it should let me sort. Oh, it's not letting me sort. Usually it lets you sort the variable. Okay, I'm not quite sure why. Oh, maybe it's a... No, it should let me sort. I'm not quite sure why it's doing that. How very awkward. Oh well, anyway, what I can do, because it's not a particularly big data set anyway, I can look for anybody who put a 2 on there. Click them, right click, clear. All right, here's another bad boy. Same thing again. Why would you click no, I don't consent, and then fill out the whole survey? There's a couple there. I think I had 3 altogether, if I recall from our summary data. So I'll keep scrolling, keep looking, keep looking, keep looking. Ah ha ha, there you are. Got another one. Ta-ta. And once again, all of these people, for whatever reason, said they didn't consent and then filled out the whole survey. Anyway, right? So, okay, we've got our people that didn't officially consent. They're out. Okay, once again, what do? We save. Okay, any change we make to the data set, we save. Next, we want to eliminate anybody who started the study but didn't finish it. And you'll notice these people, because they have blanks almost immediately. So they said yes, they received an article condition like this, and then they stopped. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and wipe these bad boys out. Same again, right? Clear cases. And it's up to you, by the way, if you want to save each time you clear any cases, you can do so. That's fine. But I like to actually go through and clear all of them, all the ones that are blank before I do another save. Your call, whatever you feel more comfortable with. All right? And I'll scroll down. Here's a couple more. You'll find they often come in clusters because it's often 1 or more people that are doing it at the same time that will decide to not complete it. So they're usually clustered around each other. We clear all these out. And if anytime you need any help with working with your SPSS dataset, I'm more than happy to help you. I love data, and SPSS is one of my favorite things. So let me know if there's anything you need with regard to that. So you see how many, as I go through this, I just want you to note how many of these are not completed. Oops. No sticky keys. I want you to notice how many of these are not completed, right? So unfortunately, we saw that number where it's like, oh wow, 151 people clicked on a link. Yeah, that's cool, but you're noticing how many people didn't go anywhere else after that, didn't do anything with regard to that. And actually, I even warn my students, I'm like, please do me a favor. If you click the link, complete the study all the way through. If you don't consent, that's fine. Don't consent, but just leave. But if you click the link and intend to consent, do and complete the study. So we can eliminate a problem like this. But as you can see, my warnings are left unheard, fall on deaf ears, as it were. So almost done. And I guess I could have filmed this where I sped this process up, but I want you to see just how much data needs to be scrubbed before we can actually start the good part, which is the analysis and answering the questions that we proposed in our study. All right. There we go. So now all we're left with are people that actually got the entire way through the study and participated. And you see how we really whittled that down quite a bit. At this point, I would definitely recommend saving. because now it is, it's clean, basically. It is clean and ready to go for your data analysis, okay? The next step, and we're not going to do this here because it's going to vary from study to study, what I would recommend, once you've cleaned it as we've just done, and then saved the clean version, I would actually go through and aggregate any scores that you need to, right? So, if there's an instrument where there's 10 questions and you're trying to get an average score or an aggregate score, go in and calculate that so that you have that variable built in before you start any analyses. It's not particularly hard to do. There's the tool that you will use is compute, and you'll just instruct it to add those questions together and divide by the total number of questions if you want an average. There's actually all sorts of functions here that you can utilize, right? But this is how you'll actually compute that variable. I would compute it before I move on through anything else. Do not run any statistics until the data set looks as you need it to for all the analysis you need. Do not go piecemeal because it's going to be real easy to forget where you were, cross wires, use the wrong variable. I promise I've made all these mistakes, and I would love for you to learn from what I've done, okay? As I said before, if you need anything, please let me know. This is my baby. I love SPSS. You can hit me up at my email address, jpelletier@hbu.edu.